Before we start, I just want to invite you all to take a deep breath with me right here, right now. Ah, yeah, and just feel yourself landing. Feel yourself land. Take another deep breath in. And let me ask you something. Have you ever gone on a date and you spent hours getting ready? You were obsessed about what you were going to wear, thinking about what you're going to say. And by the time you got there, you were already exhausted. Not because of the date itself, but because of how much energy went into you trying to manage the whole experience, managing how you appeared, whether he liked you, whether you were enough. And somewhere inside all of that managing, you disappeared. And if you're really honest, this isn't just about dating, it's a pattern: overthinking, overgiving, overextending, trying to secure love by managing yourself. And the hard part is that this can start to feel normal. Hi, my name is Vickie Falcone, for those of you who don't already know me. And I know this pattern intimately, not because I studied it, but because I lived it. For years, when I dated, I wasn't present. I was performing, thinking about how I sounded, how I looked, whether they approved of me. And what I couldn't see at the time, what I absolutely could not see at the time, was that I was abandoning myself in those behaviors every single time. I was so focused on whether they would choose me, I never stopped to ask, do I even choose them? And not surprisingly, I kept attracting unavailable men over and over again. And then life gave me a moment that brought me to my knees. About 20 years ago, I had just written my first book. It's called Buddha Never Raised Kids and Jesus Didn't Drive Carpool. And I was getting ready to go on a 19-city speaking tour. It was absolutely the height of my career and my joy. I felt powerful, clear, alive. And then my husband told me he'd been having an affair. And something in me broke. And after the divorce, I remember thinking, you know what? I'm done. I am done with dating. I'm done with relationships. I am done putting myself in a position to be hurt again. But if I'm honest, that moment and that particular wound didn't create my pain. It revealed it. Because underneath all my confidence, I was still looking for approval outside myself. So eventually, 4 years after my divorce, I did get the courage to date again. And I'll never forget my first date after my divorce. I spent hours getting ready, changing outfits, changing makeup, changing jewelry, trying to calculate what version of me will be most lovable. And by the time I arrived, I was absolutely exhausted. And the date itself, I can't even remember him, but I remember this: I had abandoned myself long before I ever sat down at the table. I call this man Steakhouse Man because he had taken me to a beautiful steakhouse in Santa Monica. But eventually I realized something had to change, not just who I dated, but how I was showing up. And I started to, because of my studies in spiritual psychology, where I got my master's, I learned how to actually partner with the divine. And I started asking, what do I want? What feels true for me? Can I trust what's meant for me won't require me to betray myself, as I had in my first marriage? And slowly I healed. Everything changed. I became more honest, more grounded, more unapologetic about who I was. And then one day I went out with a man who I call Starbucks Man. He was handsome, gratefully. He actually looked like his picture on his dating profile. So we got some tea. Both of us sat down which, for what started as a lovely and hopeful conversation. Then, about 20 minutes in, he asked me, "What books are you reading?" And I had this split second impulse to hide who I really was, to sound more normal, more acceptable. But instead, I took a deep breath and told the truth. I said, "I'm reading A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle." And he looked at me and said, "What is that? Are you one of those LA like woo woo spiritual women?" And in that moment, I had a choice: shrink or stay with myself. And for the first time in my life, on a date, and maybe anywhere, I stayed with myself. I said, "Yep, that's me. Yep." Tension, tension, tension. And he immediately leaned back, crossed his arms, and said, "Oh, then we are definitely not a match." But instead of collapsing, I felt free. I literally skipped through the parking lot back to my car because for the first time, I wasn't trying to earn love by abandoning myself. And that changed everything for me. So, the work I do in my courses and one on one is all about the specific changes that happened in me between that first date with Steakhouse Man, I call, and the date that I call Starbucks Man, where I absolutely spoke my truth and he walked away. Right. So, my sweet result of that work is that the first thing that happened to me just happened in my everyday life before I even met my beloved. But I had gone from fear and trying to appear certain ways in relationships to being 100% authentic, to being very detached as I dated. And here was my result of that. I just closed out Zoom. So hold on while I bring Zoom back. Let's see here. Bear with me when I give me a thumbs up in the chat if you can hear me. I want to make sure I didn't accidentally close out Zoom. Oh, oh there. Okay, thank you. There you are. Okay. Let me share this with you. Apologies for the tech glitch here. But I want you to see this. This is my beloved Paul. And it isn't just that I got married, it's that I was my completely authentic self. That's who I was, to find him, to call him in. So that's our whole family at our sweet little small wedding in Kauai. There's just the two of us. And so it is my absolute passion to help women do what I did, which is overcome the intense fear of being rejected, partner with the divine to call in your beloved. So let's look at the handout tonight. And I want to go over what you're going to learn with me this evening. You're going to, so if you don't have it, I'll put it in the chat here. If you don't have the handout, you don't need it to get a lot out of this, but if you want it, there it is. You're going to learn how to attract people who are emotionally available for a committed relationship with you and courageously walk away from the people who are not. You're going to learn the single brave action all of my clients took before attracting their soulmate. I've done this for many, many years now, and I've noticed really distinct patterns, and I want to share those with you. The most common challenge spiritual women face on their quest to finding love. The specific fear you'll have to overcome to call on your beloved, and how you can go from just information here to actual lasting transformation. So let's go to the next section of your handout there. And I want you to take a moment and ask yourself, answer this question for yourself. What is your biggest challenge when it comes to dating and relationships? What is your biggest challenge? If you'd like, you can put it in the chat. And I welcome you to share that there in the chat, but definitely write it down for yourself. Take a moment, take a deep breath, slow yourself down, really drop in. Dropping into your body and your truth is a big part of healthy dating. We're going to have a Q&A where you can actually talk with me at the end. So any of your dating questions are going to be welcome at that time. But for now, if you want to put into the chat, would anyone want to share what do you think your biggest challenge or challenges are when it comes to dating? What do you think? Okay, these are good. Okay. Meeting new. Where are these people? I know. Where are these people? I have an answer to that. If you want to answer that again, ask it again later. Divorced men are wounded. They have not processed their childhood wounds or past relationships. Okay. Where are these people? Too friendly, too fast. Roseanne, I hear you. Yes. Meeting new people. Trust. Boy, I hear you. That was, of course, for me, that was a huge issue, Kathleen, right? Understandable being that my partner cheated. Moving on from past relationships, Mel, I hear you. Absolutely. Being open to try new things or mindsets versus crossing boundaries, right? Yeah. When am I just being open to new things? And when is this, ooh, that's actually a boundary for me. Susan, absolutely listening to my gut feelings and not doubting myself. Absolutely. Finding men who are consistent in their efforts and are emotionally available. Yes, I hear you, right? That's why you're here tonight. Um, Similar to what you described, Angelisa. Yeah, I hear you. Fear of meeting someone with serious issues. Yes, I hear you. I thank you for your heartfelt shares there. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful. So let's talk about what the shift is. The real shift for all of us that want all the things that you've put in there in the chat is not how do I find someone better? The shift is what do I do when I feel something early on? Because that moment is where your power is. What do I do when I feel something early on? Because that's when the only place we can actually change and show up different again. And I've seen this over and over again that when a woman begins to recognize that moment, right, which is what I did with that Starbucks man, but then I did it all the time after that, pretty much. I mean, I wasn't 100% perfect, but I'd say most of the time. But so we need to be able to recognize that moment, pause instead of override what's going on inside of us and stay connected to what you feel. Yeah. Stay connected to what you feel. And this is where the spiritual work, part of this work can come in, because it's not just about trusting yourself mentally, it's about learning how to stay connected to something deeper That could be your truth. That could be something spiritual for you, even when it's uncomfortable, and even when you really want the relationship to work. That's what allows you to let go when something isn't aligned, to not force what isn't right, and to create real space for something real and aligned to come in. And when that begins to shift, women notice they lose interest in the dynamics that used to hook them. They feel calmer in dating. They don't need as much reassurance and they trust themselves faster. And from that place, they naturally attract a different kind of relationship. So let's talk about, and if you were with me last time, is anyone here um okay, let's roll this out. Is anyone here that was here with me last time? This is where, I changed it up a little bit. If you were, people came again, and this is the part I just decided to change up a bit, is to really, because people were asking me afterwards, it's like, what do you mean uh, emotionally available? What do you mean emotionally unavailable? And I'm guessing you already have some pretty good ideas about that, but I wanted to get really specific with you here, really specific so you can spot it. So here's what it looks like. Emotionally available. They're present and engaged. They genuinely listen when you talk about your feelings and show interest in your inner world, or I'll even say in your world. I Sadly, I've had a lot of women who I've worked with. I work with men also, by the way, but almost exclusively women, go on first dates and say, they didn't ask me one thing about myself. So to me, that's a red flag. Uh, Next, they can express their own feelings. This is absolutely essential. They are comfortable sharing what's going on inside of them, their hopes, their fears, their vulnerabilities. And when I'm working with couples, the definition of intimacy that I use comes from the world of Pia Melody, who has a lot of writings in the 12-step community. And I love her definition of intimacy. It's two people sharing their realities with each other without fear of being rejected and without trying to change the other, right? Think about that. Two people sharing their realities without fear of being rejected or without an agenda to try to change someone. And that's the working definition that sometimes Paul and I work together with couples, but when I'm working with couples, and if you want to have real intimacy in your relationships, which I'm guessing that you do, and that's what an emotionally available person can do, that person has to be able to express their feelings. They've got to be able to know how to communicate what's going on inside of themselves. Sounds easy. My background, as you may have figured out, for 25 years was in the world of parenting. And I will say most of us sadly weren't taught how to be aware of and name our feelings. And so therefore we are not good at sharing it with someone else. So be gentle with yourself if you're on that path. I had to step onto that path. I didn't know how to do that from my childhood of origin. Okay, let's keep going here. They let you see the real them, imperfections and all, and can handle you doing the same, right? There's got to be like, okay, here I am. Here's my wounded parts. This is the real me. Um, it was very, very minor what I did on the date with Starbucks, man, right? All I basically is let him know is that I was into new age, new age spiritual things. And that was an immediate no for him. Fine. But then as you go on, it can be a little more, maybe more challenging, or the things are bigger where you're like, oh, I have this, I've got this, right? Paul and I are both recovering addicts and codependents, right? That was something that we eventually had to share with each other. They're consistent. Their emotional presence is reliable, not hot and cold. You don't have to guess where you stand. And they're ready for commitment. They have the mental and emotional bandwidth for a relationship. They're not so consumed by past trauma, other relationships, work stress, or personal issues that there's no room for you. This one can be sneaky, because it's like, well, he's working a lot, and I know he's working on his thesis for his degree, and they're ready for commitment. And I'm going to tell a story about a client who I'm going to call Melanie, who desperately wanted this one and did not have it. Here's emotionally unavailable. What is emotionally unavailable? They might be physically present, but feel distant, right? This was my first marriage. My husband was often there, but because he didn't have emotional skills, he often felt distant, even in the room. They avoid deeper conversations. They struggle with commitment. Some of you might know about attachment styles, and those people with avoidant attachment styles can really struggle with commitment or seem unable to meet your emotional needs no matter how much you try. It might not even be extremely clear to you, but they're just not able to. Okay, so this give you an idea of what we're going for. So this is what we mean, in the previous slides about emotionally available versus emotionally not available. All right, shrink that down. Okay. So let's talk about these 5 blocks. Here, we'll start at the bottom of the handout on page 1. Let's talk about what might be getting in the way of your heartfelt desire for partnership. Number 1, lack of clarity is what goes in that blank. Lack of clarity. This may sound overly simplistic, but I run into it all the time. And I had this block myself. I had all 5 of these blocks, by the way. So, not being crystal clear in your own mind before you go on a date or before you go on your next date, what you want and need in a relationship and what you will walk away from. So that's what goes in the blanks there in your handout. Not being crystal clear in your own mind before you go on a date, what you want and need in a relationship, and what you will walk away from. So, one of my clients, who I'll call Melanie, came to me heartbroken because she realized she had fallen back into an old pattern of abandoning herself. It was far more subtle this time than it had been in the past. She met a man at the coffee shop shortly after his divorce, and very clear on, he told her something important. He said, "I'm honestly not sure I'm ready for anything serious yet. I think I still need to process my marriage and divorce." Now, the truth is, he was actually being honest, but instead of hearing him clearly, she attached to the hope that he would eventually choose her. So for 3 months, she stayed emotionally invested, hoping, waiting, trying to be understanding, and eventually it became painfully clear. He simply was not available for a committed relationship. And what devastated her the most was she was saying to me, "But he's such a high quality man." When we were trying to get, when I was coaching her to have the courage to walk away, she just kept saying, "But he's so high quality." And that can be true. So a very high quality person can be emotionally unavailable because of circumstances, right? So this is where a lot of women get stuck because they confuse potential, chemistry, or someone seeming like a good man with actual emotional availability. So one of the things we first worked on was this, and it sounds simple, but it changed everything for her. Before dating someone, She had to get crystal clear with herself first. What am I actually available for? Right? Not casual confusion, not ambiguity, not let's see what happens, but a man who's genuinely available for a committed long term relationship. And then, second part, which all my clients have to do, and when they do, their life changes. She had to be willing to communicate that early, clearly, honestly, without apologizing for it. Because emotionally available love begins with you being emotionally available to your own truth first. Right? So tap in the chat, type a one if this particular block and challenge resonates for you. Type a one in the chat if this one resonates for you. Lack of clarity. It can show up a lot of different ways. Some people, I know when I started dating, I didn't have any kind of list or things that I hoped would happen. I just was like, well, let's date. I'm looking for a nice guy. Right. All right, let me go to my chat here. Any ones? Must be a glitch. Oh, is someone what's going on here? No sound? 6:20. That was 10 minutes ago. Figure out how to get myself emotionally available. Similar to my story. The difference is I'm almost at 3 years in this relationship. Okay, I hear you. Angelisa is a one, and a Sophia a yes. I had clarity. I had a specific list, and he matched except for the commitment. Oh boy, that's hard when they have almost everything. I've had a couple of guys that were that for me, and it is challenging. I hear you. I have a list of what I want. Fantastic. Yeah. Feeling deeply flawed when I see their flaws. Makes sense as if this man in front of me is revealing red flags, perhaps. I'm too flawed to have attracted one. Yeah. Must be a glitch. Oh, okay. Whoops. Okay, great. Well, so I'm glad you have a list of what you want. I'm very glad. I feel when I have attraction towards someone, after matching a few points I was looking for, I lose clarity. For some other red flags. That's a great awareness. Red flags that come across over time. Yeah, yeah, I hear you. And one of the things when I'm working with people, whether in the course, which I'm going to talk with you a little bit later about tonight, or one on one, we create this clear list of this is what I need. This is what's negotiable because it's helpful to understand this is what I absolutely must have. This is negotiable. I could go either way on this one. And then this is, then I have a third column. I work with people on like, this would be nice. And one of the important things to do once you have your list is to keep going back to it, is to keep revisiting it, updating it, so that it's a living thing. All right. Okay, number two, top of page two. You stay too long in relationships that don't meet your needs. This one is called, sorry, staying too long. Challenge number two is staying too long, right? And this is exactly what you're saying here. I feel some attraction toward a guy after matching. I lose clarity on some other red flags that come across. Exactly. This is so common. You're not alone. I absolutely did this. So number two, again, you stay too long in relationships that don't meet your needs. And that what goes in that last line there is you settle. You settle. Ouch. Yeah. Angelisa's saying that's my most recent experience. I hear you. And that's painful. You're not alone. You're really not alone. My client, I'm going to call her Jamie, slid back into a relationship. She's an Ivy League school graduate. So very successful woman. She slid back into a relationship during lockdowns with a man she dated before, someone who had been non-committal the first time around. And they lived together for 2 years at that time. She was 38. She wanted marriage. She wanted children. And every time she brought up the future and her desires, he went vague, right? She finally let go of the relationship very courageously and came to work with me. We'd been working together for about a year when a text arrived out of nowhere. It was him inviting her to dinner. She was nervous, but more than nervous, she was hopeful. Maybe he's ready now, she thought. They went to dinner a few nights later. It was a long, unhurried meal, appetizers, five-course dinner, and with every course, her hope was quietly growing. We're really connecting. Maybe he's actually changed. He knows what I want, marriage and kids. I told him enough times. Why else would he reach out to me after all this time? Then the waiter set down the check. And in the moment that he leaned forward and told her, you know what? I have this really exciting new business adventure I can't wait to tell you about. And then he asked her if she would share her contacts with him, her exclusive client list, the one she had spent years building. And something in her drops because she's seen this before. For 2 years, when they were living together, he took from her time, her energy, her resources, without ever fully showing up for her. She had found it deeply painful then, and here, over the remnants of a five-course dinner, she had let herself believe that it meant something. He was doing it again. So when she got home, she texted me immediately. She was somewhere between enraged and heartbroken. I asked, "What do you want to do?" And she said, "I want to end it, but I am scared." And then the real question came out from her. What if I leave, Vickie, and I don't find anyone better? Almost defensive was her tone with me. And that's the moment that a lot of women stay. But this time she did not. She texted me back again and she said, "Are you sure, Vickie? Can you promise me if I let this go, I'll find my person?" Yes, I told her, I am 100% certain. If you cut this off, you open yourself up for someone much better. We texted back and forth for over an hour. The woman's got an Ivy League degree. She's sharp, articulate, accomplished, and she could not write this text herself. So I scripted it for her. I typed it on my phone. Here it was. "Thank you for dinner tonight. I'm not willing to share my contacts with you, and I respectfully ask that you not contact me again." Her hands were shaking, but she hit send. And in that moment, something shifted permanently because for the first time, she didn't override what she knew. She was terrified, but she hit send. He was offended, but something shifted in her that night that she never went back on. So if you can relate to Jamie's story, put a 2 in the chat. If you relate to this one, staying too long, settling because they're not meeting your needs. I'd say, sadly, that was my whole first marriage, unfortunately. Yeah. Oh, we have a bunch of 2s here. I mean, that's a really unfortunate situation when it's the father of your children, Angelisa, Anna Sophia, Mel, Angie, Adriana, Sherry, Shannon, Susan, Kathleen, Vera. Yes, almost 10 years now. Sherry, 30 years too long. I hear you. I feel you. You're in the right place, and I'm sorry. It just so strong in so much of our conditioning to abandon ourselves. It's so strong just for women in general. Ex-husband, 26 years. Yes, I feel you. Yeah, I hear you. You're not alone. Okay, let's look at challenge number 3. Limiting beliefs. Limiting beliefs. You don't believe it's possible, so it goes in the first blank there, to find what you really want, or you don't feel you deserve love, which is why reason number 2 happens, right? We stay too long because we have a limiting belief. And I've heard someone in here actually said a limiting belief. I'm going to have to go back and read it. You don't believe it's possible to find what you really want, or you don't feel you deserve love. Right. Right. And I hear things like someone typed it in the chat tonight. All the good men are taken. I'm too old. My life, I'm too complicated. I'm too much. Maybe I'm just meant to be alone. You know what? Maybe I'm meant to be alone. And what Jamie's belief was, if I leave, I won't find anyone better. She was terrified. So these beliefs, if you have these beliefs, they're running the show, because how we feel and what we do is not governed by what we think. Or, I mean, it isn't governed by how we feel. It's governed by the story we're telling ourselves. So these limiting beliefs are extremely important to become aware of and to get in there and change. All right. Maybe they can't meet our capacity for giving love. Sometimes that happens. Yeah. Thinking of going back to an ex because I'm afraid of being alone. I hear you. And, that's what Jamie, that's absolutely where Jamie was. So you're not alone. And I want more for you. You're not alone. And I want more for you. It's totally understandable why you'd have that belief. I had it, and I want more for you. Yeah. Oh, here. Someone sent me an email who's in Europe and couldn't be with us live. So this is our notice this limiting belief. She said, "May I ask if I can have a recording of your session, How to Attract an Emotionally Available Partner, this evening? I'm starting to think that maybe I'm just meant to be single without a life partner for the rest of my life, but somehow there's another voice speaking of a longing to have a life partner, probably from your coaching sessions, right? So this is common. I had this. I don't know if you guys caught the time frame, but the time from my divorce to the time when I went on my first date was 4 years. Mainly because, well, I had a lot of healing work to do, and that healing work is what I've put together and what I now teach people so they can have a shorter time frame for healing. But I went here. I was like, you know what? I'm an author. How many people get to do that? I got to be a keynote speaker. I got a career that I love for 20 years, being a parenting coach, and loved that. I'm healthy. I've got a wonderful relationship with my kids. You know what? Maybe that's all I get. But I say nay, nay to that. I believe in an absolutely abundant universe, whatever you want to call that, spirit, mother, father, God, whatever it is for you. I believe that that benevolent energy wants us to win and wants us to have everything we want. Okay, let's look at block number 4, unhealed attachment. Unhealed attachment. Specifically, you have unhealed attachment wounds from childhood. Unhealed attachment wounds from childhood. This is very common, very, very common. My client Maria came to me in a high conflict with her boyfriend. As we dug deeper, we discovered that her attachment wounds were causing her to stay long past the time when men made it clear they weren't interested in a long-term relationship. She had an anxious attachment style from childhood, which means she'd cling harder whenever they pulled away. Then they pushed her further away, which made her more anxious. A vicious cycle, a painful cycle for her. I mean, she actually sat here in this office, this was years ago, but in these chairs with me, and kept saying to him, do you want to have kids, right? He'd agreed he wanted to be married. So that part they had both agreed. He wanted to be married, she wanted to be married. And he kept saying, I'm open. I'm open. And then he kept saying all these same things, just like Jamie, right, with the vague responses. And at one point, after multiple times of her bringing him here, I said to her, I turned to her and I said, and it was painful for her to hear, I said, he's not saying yes. And by the way, these specific words I've heard so many times from my client, especially around kids or marriage. It's like, well, I'm open to that. I'm open. That is not a yes, right? If my daughter called me and said, "Do you want," which she did in February, "Do you want to go on a scuba diving trip with me?" I'm open. It's not a yes. It's definitely not a yes. And I wouldn't, pursue that too much further with people. But if you have the wound of the wound of anxious attachment that came from your caregivers, that's something you're going to need to start to look at and start to heal. So type of 4, if this one resonates. Oh, I forgot to say 3. Who's got 3? Limiting beliefs. Who do you think who resonates with that? Who's got 4? Number 4, Anna Sophia saying 3. Adriana, I dated right away, many dates. Then one appeared like a twin flame. Yeah. 3 and 4, threes and fours. Niha, Kathleen, 4 resonates. 3 and 4. Yeah, I hear you. Understandable. Roseanne, 4 resonates for you. Unhealed attachment. So many people have this. I have this. I definitely have attachment wounds from childhood that were a big part of the healing work that I had to do to open myself up. I had to do all 5 of these: heal my limiting beliefs, heal my attachment wounds, not stay too long when it didn't work out, right? Um, I've had to heal all these. These are all my story too. Shannon, also 4. Yeah. So number 5, this one's trickier. Number 5 is at the top of page 3. You're also, oh, wait, what? Oh, let's see here. Wait. We've got to go back to, you got to hear the rest of Jamie's story. Unhealed attachment wounds, limiting beliefs. Oh, here, Jamie's going to be number 5 here. Good. You're also not available. This one can be tricky. This can really hide out. They come to me and they're like, I really want love. I really, really do. Vickie, I want it so badly. I want it. And then we get in and we dig and we dig and we dig and we see, oh gosh, maybe it's not just the people you're dating that are not emotionally available. Maybe it's you too. So number 5, even though you say you want love, it's possible that you may not be emotionally available for a relationship. In psychology, these are called projections. These are called projections at work. Right? We project onto others what we haven't healed in ourselves. So, some signs that you might not be emotionally available: you're still attached to an ex, you're overly focused on a career to the point that you don't have really bandwidth for intimacy. You say you want love, but you never make time for dating. You choose people. This is the tricky subconscious one, the last one. You choose people you know won't commit, so you don't have to either. And that's like, oh my goodness, they wouldn't commit. Look at them. But there's in psychology, projections have 3 fingers pointing back at you. That's the bad news and that's the good news. So, yeah. So remember, let's talk about this thing I mentioned earlier, the single brave action all my clients took right before they attracted their soulmate. They courageously, almost 100% of them did this, walked away from emotionally unavailable partners. They courageously walked away from emotionally unavailable partners. So remember Jamie, who I talked to you, I mentioned before, who was with the wishy-washy guy for 2 years, and then they went to dinner. Remember, she was terrified, but she hit send on that message that said, not giving you my contacts, and I'm not interested in anything further with you, right? He was offended. But something in that night shifted in her permanently. So much so, the very next morning, she texted me and said, when do you think I should get back on the dating apps? And I said, not yet. Give yourself some time to process this. She ignored me completely. She went on the app Monday. This was a Sunday night, by the way. I remember because I don't usually coach my clients on Sundays, but this was such an emergency situation that I made an exception. And that date she had was a Sunday. She went on the apps again Monday, Wednesday. So that's 2 years, 2 days after she went on the apps. She met someone, but this time was different in every way. She was 39 by then. He was 48. These people are not young. On their very first date, they both put it plainly. They wanted marriage, children, commitment, no games, no performing indifference. Neither of them had ever been married, by the way, which is just interesting. They'd never been married, they never had kids. And he just lit up. He told her he had been praying for a woman who just knew what she wanted. They've been together over, well, now at this time, 3 years. And 2 years ago, they welcomed a beautiful baby girl. So here's what made the difference. She trusted herself enough to walk away from the wrong person, even when she was scared. She added an upleveling of her limiting belief, too, even though she didn't believe it 100%. And you don't have to believe all this and do all this 100%. She replaced, I won't find anyone better, which she was texting me, with my person is out there and I'm making room for him, right? That's a classic example of up leveling a limiting belief. I won't find anyone better with my person is out there and I'm making room for him. So she got clear, right? Number one, very clear on what she wanted before she started dating again, which was 48 hours. And she had the courage to say it out loud on the first date without apology, which she had never done. She'd been too scared to do that before. That's the work. And it changes everything. So they were able to do this, walk away. So back to the handout. They were able to do this. They were able to walk away from emotionally unavailable partners because they trusted spirit, whatever your word is for that, the divine, the universe, God, whatever your word, put that in there. And they changed their limiting beliefs. They changed their limiting beliefs. Right? Jamie's was, I won't find anyone better. And when I told her this and we started practicing, she believed it. I said, what percent do you believe that? She said 51. I said, 51 will work. It'll start to turn it. My person is out there and I'm making room for him, right? So let's wrap this up with the most common challenge spiritual women face on their search to love. It's going to sound so overly simplistic, but I faced this big time. I am a very spiritual person. I got my master's degree, a 2 year, very intensive program in spiritual psychology, right? I meditated in the morning for years. I had a 30-year meditation practice by the time I ended up there. But I too, even being a very spiritual person, succumbed to this, and it's so common. Here it is. When we succumb to fear, doubt, and worry because we have forgotten God, or whatever your word is, we are suffering from what's called spiritual amnesia. When we have forgotten, when we have succumbed to fear, doubt, and worry because we have forgotten God, we are suffering from spiritual amnesia, right? One of the spiritual paths that I've studied is something called A Course in Miracles. And this is my all-time favorite, favorite quote of the Course in Miracles. See if I can share this. Bear with me when I keep losing the share button. So, A Course in Miracles, my favorite quote: if you are trusting in your own strength, you have every reason to be apprehensive, anxious, and fearful. That's from lesson 47. And I'd say to this day, this is one I have to keep going back to again and again and again. If I'm trusting in my own strength, I have every reason to be apprehensive, anxious, and fearful. One of the things that reduced my fear when I went on dating, besides all the things we've already talked about, is I literally just started turning it over and trusting the universe in a way I had not done before. I just started trusting the universe. So, if you are ready to go deeper into this work, into what some of the things we've talked about tonight, I'll show you how. If this is something you recognize in yourself, the things that we've talked about, and you don't want to keep doing this alone, right? I want to invite you into something deeper, a space where you can actually live this work. It's called Finding the Love of Your Life Without Losing Yourself. It's an 8-week guided experience. Here's what it is. It's not about learning more, although I will be teaching you things. It's about changing what happens in the moment. Here's what we do. Inside this work, you'll begin to recognize that moment earlier. Stop overriding yourself. Trust what you feel and choose differently in real time. And specifically, because in each module we spend, like, for example, one entire module is on limiting beliefs, because all of us have them. One entire module is on projections, because all of us have them. One entire module is on healing your emotional, your attachment wounds. So this could be you. Here's from one of my clients. Hello, I wanted to text you because I have some very fun news that I wanted to share with you. I am engaged to be married to the sweet, kind, strong, smart, aware, handsome, growing man that I met 4 years ago while I was in your program. We are so happy and so stinking excited. And I'm so deeply joyful and proud that I did the inner shifting and forgiving and boundary setting needed. And by the way, a deep kind of forgiving and letting go is a huge part of the curriculum. Anyway, this is Marcia and her sweetie getting surprised on the beach here in California. This could be you. Thank you for sharing this last week. I think she's here with us tonight, Fancy. I highly recommend Vickie's classes. I took 3 classes from Vickie beginning 5 or 6 years ago, then became her private client when I met someone I thought could be my person. I needed help navigating it, still not trusting myself. It was extremely helpful, and I'm still with my man now, 4.5 years later. I keep coming back to Vickie's webinars to get reminded of some of her teachings. Total game changer. And this is Fancy. I think she's here tonight. Say hi in the chat if you are. And her sweetie. This could be you. What changes in this work? Women who do this work often notice they feel calmer in dating, right? This is the first thing. I know everyone wants the end goal. They want the soulmate, and I want that for you. But if you can start feeling calmer in dating, how would that change your life? It changed mine hugely. They stop chasing clarity. You have clarity. They walk away sooner absolutely essential, and they trust themselves more, which is a game changer. Who this is for? This 8-week course is for you if you're self aware, but you're still repeating patterns. You've attracted unavailable partners, and you're ready for something deeper than just insight. So here's the structure of the course. These will be 8 weekly live sessions. So just like this, just like we are doing right now. It's me teaching, and then plenty of time for you to get your questions answered. You to get your questions answered, because the coaching part of it is essential. It's the combination of the coaching and the information that I find to be the absolute winning combination. Guidance and coaching, a supportive group of women. Every time I've taught this class, I say, I don't know if they'll bond like the last one. I'm not sure if they will, but it turns into a very sweet, incredibly supportive community. And that's a really powerful and actually essential part of healing. Groups are one of the most powerful way to heal and change who you've been. Here's the bottom line. It's a space for you to practice all these new ways of being in real time. So here's the price. It's $497 for the full 8-week experience, and includes 2 additional, forgot to put that on here, 90-minute group coaching sessions. So in addition to the 8 weeks, we've got 2 Saturday mornings where we are going deep in you asking your questions. So a full 90 minutes. So once you join, if you're called, you'll receive a welcome email. All the session details will be sent to you. You'll be fully guided from the start. We start next week, Tuesday, May 12th at 6 p.m. Pacific time. It's a small group, maximum 25 people, a grounded space, real support. Oops, we already did this. Oh, I don't know what happened to all these slides. Okay, let me get out of here. So I'm going to drop the link in here. You're also going to have an email in your inbox. But here's the link if you are called to join us. No pressure at all, not from fear. But if you're something in you is saying, you know what, I don't want to keep doing it this way, I invite you to join us. Already some women have signed up from last week, so a sweet group is already joining. So with that, let's open it up to your questions. You can ask your questions in a couple different ways. You can, if you want to keep it completely private, you can type your questions into the chat and only to me. And then I will read your question out loud for everyone to hear it, but you won't reveal yourself. And I see someone's already in there. Okay. And so you can chat privately to me. You can put your question in the chat if you don't want to talk and be on video with me. But if you, yeah, the recording will go out tomorrow. Yeah, the recording will go out tomorrow morning. This class will be this same time, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And we go 75 minutes to 90 minutes, just depending. If you want to talk with me, raise your hand. So see how I clicked the little raise hand? It might say reactions, or it might say raise hand, but raise your hand so I can see you and I will unmute you and you can chat with me if you prefer to just talk with me. So you can type your question in the chat. You can. All right, Niha, go ahead.
Hi, Vickie. Thank you for a nice workshop. I have a question on, I wanted to ask something which is I've noticed, and it might be wrong, so you can correct me. I just wanted to check with you. So, uh, do you believe that we attract people on the basis of the energy you have? Like, I mean to say, if I sometimes notice that I draw a lot of insecure men, so is it because you have a lot of insecurities within? I have a lot of insecurities within me, or uh, it's just me overthinking? I don't know.
No, I think that's a great question. In fact, I think in session one, or at the very latest in session two of the 8 week class, I literally specifically map this out energetically. We, it's slightly oversimplistic. Well, yeah. So the short oversimplistic answer is we attract people, yes, who are at an energetic match to us. But let me give you a slight twist on it. And I'll give you myself as an example. Mine's pretty dramatic, so yours might not be this dramatic. But one of the things that's happening is that we attract people on an unconscious, subconscious level who treat us approximately the same way we treat ourselves. We go really deeply into this in the 8 week course because it can be trigger it can be like, oh dang, to learn that, but it can be also very freeing. And so for example, my story in my first marriage, when I did the deeper work, and this is sort of exactly what I'm talking about here tonight when I'm talking about all the different ways we abandon ourselves, and I'm telling you how I did it, and I'm telling you how my clients did it. I betrayed myself over and over in my first marriage by not speaking my truth, by not fully asking for what I wanted and needed. I think you get an idea. And it was in spiritual psychology that I learned, yes, unconscious, we attract others who treat us how we treat ourselves. So I betrayed myself. I attracted someone who betrayed me. Ouch. Ouch. Big ouch. Um, but here's where my healing opportunity came. And this is the whole, kind of foundation of what I'm talking about tonight. I can heal. I can heal my habit of betraying myself. Did it happen overnight? No, it did not. But over time, incrementally, and it's sort of what I started with, right? Where steakhouse date is like me, like just a wreck trying to figure out, was he gonna like me? Is he gonna like me? Oh, focused on him. And by the time I got to Starbucks, man, which was like a couple years later, I was just like, do I like him? This is who I am, right? So the self betrayal ended,
Hmm.
uh, or greatly reduced. Let me tell you, I think it's something I still work on. If I'm honest, and I'm very open and I'm very honest. Do I think I'm at 100%? No, because I'm a human being and I still have patterns. But you have a lot of power when you start to change your limiting belief, and when you start to heal feeling, if your issue is feeling insecure, and you start, and you can in this 8 weeks time start to take meaningful steps, then you'll see automatically you do attract a different kind of person. Great question. Thank you for asking it, Neha.
Thank you. Yeah.
Where are these types of men? So here's my philosophy on that. Take it or leave it. I get that question a lot, and I know several people asked it at the very beginning of tonight. Where are these types of men? It's to my experience with myself and the people that I've coached is that the inner shift, sort of backing, sort of piggyback on what Neha asked. When I shift inside, I attract a different kind of person. Right? This is this is known psychology. For example, uh, women who are in abusive relationships, right? The thing it's like, it's not like every man is abusive. I know we've got some challenges out there in the world right now, but every man, can we agree, every man is not physically abusive. He's not. She's attracting men who hit her because there's something about her energy, her belief system, her the way she devalues herself that attracts that. The hopeful part is I find the opposite to be true. When I start making choices that honor myself, that when I say no, when I walked away from the Starbucks man, I started attracting a different kind of person, right? That's the core of law of attraction. It's a bunch of law of attraction stuff out there that's very lightweight, but this is the core. It's like who you are pulses out into the world. Someone else. Um, Adriana. Okay, got it. Yes, I got your question. I'll reach out to you directly about that. Jocelyn, yes. So the types of men, who you are, pulsates through the universe and attracts what you are. We are attracting what we are. My partner and I each struggle with childhood attachment. She is unable to access emotion, and I am codependent who can't stop trying to understand why. Yeah. So the super short version for healing that, and what a great question, Shannon, is the core healing for codependence boils down to two words. It's going to sound overly simplistic, but know thyself. This is from Pia Melody's work, who wrote multiple books on codependence. Pia Melody, um, Paul, and I'm I'm recovering anxious attached. Paul's recovering avoidant attached. Both of us for different reasons. We are only in a healthy place if I know what I want and need and can speak it, and if Paul knows what he wants and needs and can speak it. So, light ahead to your journey. Kathleen, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, you can hear me, right?
Yes.
Okay. So I've got a question. When you're strongly attracted to someone and there's just this amazing out of this world chemistry, but then if I'm reading on Facebook and I see these psychologists, or if I'm watching a TED talk, they always warn you, watch out if you have this straight, crazy, strong chemistry with another person. What do you say about that?
Well, great question. I had it with Paul. I did. And
Okay.
yeah. And so I think, it's a gray area. I don't, I don't see it as black or white.
Mm-hmm.
My bigger question is, do you lose yourself in that then? That's where I would go, because look, imago therapy teaches us about the attraction is that, we all think we're consciously, writing this list, which I did, and I encourage you to do. I'm big on vision boards and writing a list and creating your ideal scene for what you want. It's some of the work we do in the very first week of the course. Um, but when we attract that person in, we are what's going on in a we think we're all like, oh, I wrote my list and then I attracted this, and this is the person. Subconsciously, we are all doing this, so we're all going to have some of this, Kathleen, to an extent or another. Subconsciously, we attract people who are going to mirror our childhood. We all do
That's
it.
what I've read, something similar to that as well.
Yeah. So I will
But
say, yeah, go ahead.
no, I was just going to say, but I didn't understand why other psychologists or people that are, do this for a living, they say, watch out for that type of person, avoid them. And I don't understand that. If you're attracting childhood wounds, wouldn't you want to be healed from those wounds.
Right. That's the rest of the state, the rest of what imago therapy is we attract those people unconsciously for
Mm-hmm.
because we are all driven to want to heal those. So
Mm-hmm.
we all have like in my first marriage, I attracted my childhood wounds. I married my mother and I didn't do any work to heal it and it just exploded, We were
Okay.
both unconscious and in our 20s and all that. In my second marriage, I watched it happen. It was like, ooh, got my mom again. Here goes mom. And but what was different was I was conscious, he was
Mm-hmm.
conscious what was happening.
Okay.
I was willing to work on myself and grow and heal and stretch myself. He had already done a ton of work on himself
Okay.
and was willing to heal and grow. And that's who you are not going to find someone who's going to be a zero trigger. It's just not going to happen. So maybe the faster we can help that, accept that, we are doing it subconsciously. And but your hope and the great place to be, it's challenging. I'm not gonna lie. It's like it's not all, roses and Paul and I have been together 15 years. I'd say the vast majority of those years have been deeply connected, peaceful, and fulfilling. But
Mm.
we've had moments where my anxious and his avoidant have reared up, and we've had to do something about it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But boy, is it my first husband is literally like, I'm like, let's go to therapy after his affair. And he's like, you know, I'm fine. I don't really need therapy.
Mm.
And Paul is like, okay, all right. I see, like, I'm willing to do the healing work. Paul, in fact, followed me to get his master's degree in spiritual psychology. And that the
It
foundation,
sounds,
yeah,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
go
interrupt you.
ahead. Yeah,
No, I was just going to say, it sounds like you and Paul complement each other,
very
and
much.
that, and you support each other and help each other heal if there's something that comes up.
Most of the time, again, we are, I'm a human, but I'd say
Oh, sure.
95% of the time we know our skills and we know how to use them. And it's a lot of the skills that are in the Finding the Love of Your Life course
That's wonderful.
that they're
Thank you.
right. Everything we use, I put in the course. So the
Thank you.
same thing that attracts a healthy relationship is the very same thing that fosters a continuation of a healthy relationship. I want to leave you all with a prayer tonight. It's from Marianne Williamson's book, Illuminata. Dear God, please show me how to love. Teach me how to extend my light into the life of another. Remove the barriers to my soul, the walls which stand in front of my heart, my commitment to aloneness, my resistances to joining. I do not seek love, dear God, for I know it is all around me. I seek instead the healing of my resistances to it, the strengthening of my spirit, that I might learn to love well, to love fully, to love deeply. When my true love calls, dear Lord, please keep my ears open. Let me not shut down. Let me not forsake him. Let me always remember that his call to love him is my call to love you. Thank you very much. Amen. All right. Let me see. Let's see. If you would like to, yes, here I will here's the link again. If you would like to unmute and just give a sweet good night to everybody, you're welcome to do that. And acknowledge you for showing up here and taking care of yourself in this way. You're welcome, Kathleen.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Thank
Thank,
you,
thank
Thank
you.
you, Vickie.
Vicky.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
Have a good night, all.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah.
Mm.